Alright everyone, I have 100 Lego Jurassic World dinosaurs. We're going to quickly skip through the brick-built ones and then go from largest down to our smallest. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 up here. Duplicates we'll get to later, but yeah, we'll start with Mosasaurus. So yes, the Mosasaurus. I really love this figure. I know a ton of people weren't a fan that it wasn't molded, but there's a lot of things you can do with it that really probably wouldn't be possible with molded, like the amount of articulation it has throughout the body, the twists and turns. It's so awesome. Yep, here are like the fins. You can move them around and stuff. It's just so good. I really love it. And then, yes, of course, we have this classic T-Rex from 2022, the Escape set. I do count these brick-built ones. You can probably, merge them amongst this line because it makes sense. Whereas, we have massive T-Rexes and the massive babies. It just doesn't make sense to have in main line. So, yeah, I count this T-Rex and Mosasaurus as part of them. But anyway, moving on to the Titanosaurus, the probably biggest, molded one, not brick built, but biggest molded Lego dinosaur you can have. Has an amazing long tail, beautifully long neck, and all that stuff. Obviously, yes, very similar to the Brachiosaurus rig. Even has an Atrociraptor jaw, but still, it is really awesome. And then yes, we do have the Brachiosaurus next up. Makes sense with a shorter tail and a different head with that more Brachiosaurus sculpt, and a different jaw, an actual unique one, I think. Or maybe it came from like an Avatar set, I'm not too sure. But then next up, we have the Rebirth Quetzalcoatlus. I know a lot of people were quite disappointed with it, so it makes sense why it came with Spinosaurus, because they knew people would buy Spino. So it was like, yep, this Quetz is going to sell either way. We can make it as bad as we want, which is unfortunate. But, however, this Quetz, the original, I am quite a fan of. I think was one of the best molded creatures from the Dominion wave. Looks beautiful. The gold paint, the white, the wings, the orange beak, and the blue crest. It just looks so good. And then this figure, one that people have been waiting for a very long time since it came out, in 2001. A really, not as great version of it. But now we have it molded. And yes, people were waiting for the Mosasaur 2 after like 10 years. So it is just awesome to get both these in the exact same wave. I love it so much. It's so awesome. And yes, it is actually bigger than Giga because of the sails. So I think that is really cool, because Giga is the second biggest carnivore now, basically. We do, of course, have Allo, but that's only because of its neck. I think it's kind of cheating. But yes, it is basically an Indominus Rex head. The only difference is the body and no studs, actually, whereas this new Spinosaurus does have studs. I feel like that's a Camp Cretaceous reference where the guy rides the Spinosaurus. But then we have the 2020 5-year Jurassic World anniversary Indominus Rex. Unfortunately, nothing 10th anniversary related this year. I thought we were going to get a 2015 brick-built Mosasaurus. That would have been so cool. But alas, it's okay. And then here we have the OG 2015 Indominus Rex. Really rare. I'm so happy I picked it up when I did back in the old day. But of course, because of how old it is, the jaw just moves really loosely. So it's like, okay, but still, I love it nonetheless. And then we have Rebirth T Rex. A bit more disappointing than the original T Rexes because, it doesn't have the painted toenails or the jaws. But still, I think it's really cool, especially when you look at it from above. It's like, ooh, it's a grey-brown striped T-Rex. It just looks so awesome. It is very similar, however, to the Rexy molds of recent years. This is the 2023 Jurassic Park 30th Anniversary Rexy. This is probably the most accurate one just because it has the scars, just like Rexy does, whereas the 2022 Dominion one didn't for some reason. I feel like, you should have reversed that order. Should have had no scars for Jurassic Park because Rexy didn't get her scars till the Velociraptor fight. But here is Buck T-Rex, or I don't know, Junior, grown up. I feel like it's meant to represent one of those. We do know that Buck was in Dominion, same with Junior. I feel Junior was the adult. I don't think it was Doe. I feel like it was 2 males there, because the animators said they animated 2 male T-Rexes, and Doe is not a male. So yeah, but here is the 2022 Rexy. Like I said, no scars, interestingly enough. So it's nice that they did it for Jurassic Park 30. We've got all possible Rexies now. And then this one is the 2019 Rexy, but I like to pretend it is Big Eatie because we don't really have many grey T-Rexes besides this new Rebirth one, but it's mostly brown. So yeah, I do like to pretend this is Big Eatie. I think it's pretty neat. And then next up, probably one of my favorite T-Rex paint schemes, the Fallen Kingdom T-Rex. I think it's really neat with the kind of tiger patterning, almost like it could represent the doe T-Rex. So I think it's pretty neat for that. I feel like, however, the Lego Dino T-Rexes represent the buck and doe pair better, though, with that green T-Rex and that really tiger-striped orange doe. But yeah, here is the classic 2015 T-Rex. Now let's move on. Here we have the Allosaurus. I feel like they almost made this to try and get ready for Spinosaurus. As you can see with the neck, they've both got a neck here to lift their heads up a bit more. Whereas, you know, the previous ones like T-Rex, Giga, Indom, they didn't really have a neck. They just connected up to the rest of the body. So yeah, I think it's pretty neat. And best thing about Allo, well, not the best thing, but it's pretty neat. It's got an eye here, but then a blind eye on the other side. So I think that's so cool. And then we have Toro. This isn't my favorite Carnotaurus scheme, but I still think it's neat. You know, they even included its little scar from the show, so I think that's cool. And this is like the more burnt variant of Toro after it gets exploded by the campers. And then here, this is definitely my favorite Carno, and probably one of my favorite Lego dinosaurs. I just think the patterning is so awesome. It really, for me, personally represents Carno from, you know, old media and stuff. So I just think it's so cool. The spikes on the head, it's, you know, smaller than Rexy heads. I don't know. I think it's neat. I know some people aren't a fan, but still. And then here, Therizinosaurus, a very interesting one with raptor claws, the Therizinoceratops basically. But yes, it does at least have some nice, you know, nails there. And I do appreciate they tried to work with something. You know, they made a whole new head. I feel like the jaw's probably from somewhere. But, you know, it's still a really fun creature. And I love that all the, you know, nails and stuff can move. And then up next, a creature that was also on the same kind of body mold as Therizinosaurus is the Baryonyx, and it does have claws here. So yes, this is Grim Baryonyx from Camp Cretaceous. It was not the first Baryonyx. This was the first Baryonyx, part of the Secrets of Island Nublar wave in 2019, but of course was based off the Fallen Kingdom Baryonyx. And then next up we have Stegosaurus, released recently alongside Allosaurus. I think it's pretty neat. I wish it was made better though, because, you know, you can't disconnect the tail or the head. And if you could disconnect the head, you could put Triceratops on it. You could have made your own Stegoceratops. Lego, how could you have missed out on that opportunity? That would have been so cool. But yes, here we have the 30th anniversary Triceratops. I'm not as big a fan of it as the Lego Dino one. I feel like that paint scheme was better because there's just too much brown with it. It would have been cool to get like a blue grayish Triceratops. But here, this is Nasutoceratops branded under Triceratops. We know it's Nasutoceratops. Come on, look at the scars and the red and gray patterns. We know it's you trying to be a Nasuto, bro. And then here, we have a green Triceratops. Not a Spinosaurus. I actually do think this one is meant to represent like a male Triceratops or something. So that's pretty cool because, yeah, there's not really any Spinosaurus resemblance with this one. But then we have Ankylosaurus. I do quite like it. It is very cute. I don't like underneath that the head is, you know, hollow. You can quite clearly see that. But of course, you are most likely going to play with it like this. Of course, would be better if you could disconnect the head, but it's still a really fun mold, especially considering you can whack that tail around just like the brick-built Bumpy Ankylosaurus. And then next up, to finish our medium-sized dinosaurs, then we'll move on to the small ones. We have the Indoraptor, a very awesome one. Comes with like one of my favorite sets, the Lockwood Manor. I love that so much. It's just such a cool creature. And yeah, here it is. The Indos all together. Indominus 1, 2, and the Indoraptor. I think it's so cool. And I think, you know, for a Fallen Kingdom 10th anniversary, it would be cool to get like maybe a white Indoraptor Lego, considering they've never made an Indoraptor since. But now moving on, we've got Pteranodon. This is the blue Pteranodon. It's appeared twice, actually. Recently, I think, at the start of last year, and then in Dominion, a junior set. And then here we have a green Pteranodon, which comes from the 2020 waves. It came in a Gallimimus set. We're getting to the Gallimimus soon, don't worry. This is the Fallen Kingdom Pteranodon with a more yellow paint scheme than the original. It's like a, I don't know, a weird olive green yellow paint scheme. And then as you can see here, this is probably my favorite Pteranodon because it mostly resembles the Jurassic World one the best. It's an accurate Pteranodon with that gray and red patterning. I just think it's really, really neat. And then yes, as I did say, Gallimimus. How cool is that? I'm so glad they made it, considering they called a Coelophyses Gallimimus at first. We didn't know if we would get one, but it is cool they made one. I'm confused why it wasn't in the 30th anniversary sets, but I'm glad I've got it nonetheless. This is the only Gallimimus. And then here we have Velociraptor. There were two of this paint variant made that came out in the 30th anniversary sets, which makes sense because there are, you know, 3 raptors in the first movie. And we do have the big one, which is a separate paint scheme. But then here we have blue, and it's got asymmetrical markings. You can see here that, you know, it's longer there, but then it's kind of feels naked here without it. But yeah, I think it's really cool to pose on this side. And yeah, we've got a baby version of this, beta as well. So that's really cool. So yeah, the baby version and beta obviously separate. And then here, it's kind of a random Velociraptor. I feel it's almost meant to represent the JB3 male, but at the same time, not really, because it's just a full-on blue raptor, and it's like, what the heck? But then here we have the big one. How cool is that? I think the big one is pretty neat. A definitely different paint scheme, and I think a lot of people have said they preferred this paint scheme over the recent Jurassic Park 30th anniversary raptors. But then here we have the Fallen Kingdom blue. Very interesting choice to make it all blue. I feel like it was more marketing it for kids, and they were saving the more accurate blue for the last line, like they did kind of with the Rexy, just so, you know, a ton of people would buy it and then realize, oh man, I've got to get an accurate blue now. So yeah. And then here we have the green Velociraptor, which I think was originally meant to appear in Fallen Kingdom, but then didn't. So it ended up being in Junior set. And yeah, you can kind of just write it off being like, oh yeah, it's Junior, it doesn't really count. And then Echo. We do have Echo from the exclusive sets. We may as well show the full squad together, right? So we got Echo, we got Delta, we got Charlie, and we do have Blue. Now I do have masks for all of them because thankfully my brother bought a set of, you know, the Blue and the Delta, and also a doubles of Charlie and Echo. So I think that's so cool. Can have a mask on all of them. We can take the mask off and the head off, apparently, but we can put the heads back on. And I honestly, I think they look better with the mask off. You can see them much better, much clearer. And Delta does actually have inaccurate colors. I think she's meant to be more dark green, but they're like, no, let's do what all the toys are doing and make her like this beige color. But they did end up making an accurate Delta for the baby versions. Anyway, here's your full Raptor squad: Blue, Charlie, Delta, Echo. We'll go over the baby soon, but now let's go over the, I guess, adult Dilophosaurus, you would call it, considering they made smaller versions of it. This is definitely one of my favorite Dilophosauruses because it has the accurate markings from Jurassic Park with the dark green, the light green, the beige underbelly. I just think this one is so cool. And it comes in a cool set, the Outpost set. I was just a fan of that. Whereas this one, it was cool. It was definitely cool to get a Dilophosaurus at the time. It was the first Dilophosaurus ever. But, you know, it was I just feel it's too, like, neon green almost. It's, like, really weird. But, yes, moving on, we have green Stygimoloch, which never appeared in the movies, but I think kind of ended up appearing in Chaos Theory. So maybe they planned to put in Camp Cretaceous, because this was from a Camp Cretaceous set, and then they couldn't make it, so they were just like, yep, put it in Chaos Theory. So yeah. And then we have normal Stiggy from Fallen Kingdom, the accurate paint schemes and stuff, all brown. I think very neat. Definitely my favorite Stygimoloch Lego you can get. I think it's just so awesome. And then next up, we have the Rebirth Raptor. There are 2 of them. I'm not sure why they didn't make an orange version. Maybe because of the Atrociraptors, but I'm not entirely sure. This is a really great stand-in, however, for, say, a JP3 Raptor. And I think the same can be said, you know, about the Atrociraptors. You can pretend it's a JB3 female. So you've got your little pack here. And then, of course, we do have Tiger Atrociraptor. So you can pretend that's like the Lost World one. And then obviously we have the Jurassic Park trio, which they're much bigger than these guys, but it will be alright. Maybe they'll make small ones in the future. And then we have Pyroraptor. Pyroraptor's very neat and, you know, did just appear in Chaos Theory Season 3, so I'm sure is, you know, even though it's kind of fell off a bit, we're not talking about as much. Chaos Theory will get a season 4, so I assume it will come back. And then here's our mini Dilophosaurus, a small version of it, I guess more accurate, although then again, it's the size of the new Velociraptor now, so it's like, they have to make it smaller again? What's the deal there? Very interesting. And then this is like the Dominion Dilophosaurus, but it also was released in the Secrets of Isla Nublar line. So interesting, it came out early, but yeah, got an orange Dominion Dilophosaurus, and then an accurate Jurassic Park Velociraptor. Oh, Dilophosaurus, my apologies. And then here, one of my favorite things because of, you know, its exclusivity, I guess. It only came out in the Jurassic World line once, because it was branded as Gallimimus, and it is the Coelophyses. It did come out twice in the Lego Dino line, I think, but of course that's a different line. That was even years older than this one from 2011, so they're harder to get, whereas, you know, you just had to buy, I think, the Xbox game to get this. I don't have Xbox, but I bought this guy on eBay. I'm like, no, I need it. I need more dinosaurs. Then here, we have a mini grey Triceratops. I think it's meant to represent a baby Nasuto, just because it's the exact same paint scheme as this one. So, you know, I feel like adult Nasuto, baby Nasuto. Yeah, and then I feel like, hang tight with me, but I feel like this is a baby Spinosaurus hybrid from Camp Cretaceous, because this came in the Camp Cretaceous sets, and the only baby Ceratopsian in that show was Spinosaurus. So I'm just like, and if you notice, they give you different pieces on top each time. I feel like the different pieces are meant to represent something. It's like, this one's flat because it's in the show, it's meant to have a sail, so you can't ride on that sail because it will hurt it. Then this one, I don't know, one piece just because, I don't know, less of a horn, I guess. And then this one, the 2 pieces to represent more horns or something, I don't know. But yeah, this is your green baby Triceratops. And yeah, let's move on to our now baby raptors. So this is the most recent one, came out in 2024 sets. I think got a duplicate as well. It's interesting, but it is based off Beta. So Beta is the original, and this is I guess the meat, I don't know, because we've got 4 different sizes of Velociraptors now. So I'll just pull out blue, baby blue for an example, and then big blue. Look at these, we've got 4 different sizes for Velociraptor now. What is going on? And the egg, if you want to count it, the hatching egg, you can count that as a Velociraptor maybe, I don't know. But anyway, there that is. And then we can move on to baby Ankylosaurus. Now this isn't bumpy, no, but it released in the recent lines. Hopefully we can get a purple one soon to represent Smoothie. But yeah, we do of course still have bumpy. So I feel like, you know, this baby was just meant to represent a random baby Ankylosaurus, considering our main one is brown. And then we do have this, which I feel was an early version of Bumpy, and then they'll like, no, turn up the saturation. We want a more blue product. The kids will love it more saturation, more colors, yay. And then here is a random Velociraptor baby that came in the 2024 sets. Maybe it's meant to represent a compy, I don't know, but yeah. And then we do have another random one that was from Dominion. Same with this one, it came out alongside this one. So yeah, maybe they're compies. Maybe this is like, you know, because these came in the multi-fight sets together. And in Camp Cretaceous, we saw a brown and a green small thing fight each other, which was the Lystrosaurus and the compy. I know it's weird, this is not a Lystrosaurus at all, but I feel like, you know, maybe they're meant to represent them. Who knows, you guys? But then we're moving on to the baby raptor squad. We've got Echo, we've got Delta, there we go, that accurate Delta. We've got Charlie, and we have Blue. So that's your full squad up together. I think they're pretty neat. They're very cool. This is the accurate colors for the Velociraptor squad. Super awesome. And yeah, there's not much else to say. I do, of course, enjoy the adult ones a bit more because they have more posability. But, you know, what can you do? They're babies. And then we have the original Blue from Fallen Kingdom. So this was, of course, sold with those sets. We got a couple of them, a few duplicates. Still very neat. And then, yeah, we have the classic baby Jurassic Park Velociraptor. And then, you know, we'll quickly go over the duplicates. These are all the duplicates you can get if you've been buying most of them, and then a few spare packs. And then, of course, we have Equilops to just finish it off. I think Dolores the Equilops is very neat. I much prefer it over the brick-built one, I will say. Although this is cool. It's still cool. But, you know, it's way too big to be an Aquilops. So I'm going to appreciate this one. It's very cool. I wish Aquilops had quills at the end of the day. But, you know, I guess they decide to cancel that idea. Anyway, it's super awesome. Here it is. I love you, Dolores. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to watch up here for more, and I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.